Hi guys, welcome to my first little chat about making a living out of playing the guitar. So I thought for this one, for the first one, we'd just talk about priorities, and by priorities I mean prioritizing what it is that you work on. And now, if your goal is to become a working guitarist, then this is a vital thing that you really need to consider. You need to sit down and think about, which is something I didn't do. So I'm going from experience here, and it's something I didn't do because all I was interested in was becoming a much better guitarist, which I'm sure is all our goals. But you know what I consider to be a really good guitarist back then compared to what I consider it to be now are two completely different things. So I spent a long time working on the technical aspect of playing. So, you know, the picking, all the different techniques. You know, it wasn't unusual for me to spend 3 hours a day just on alternate picking. So that got my alternate picking very good. But did it make me a better musician? Hell no. It just got me good at a specific technique. And then went on to doing sweep picking, tapping, all those things. And now when I think about how I make a living from playing, and how much of that stuff that I worked on back then for many hours is required from my day-to-day living, it's pretty much zero. So I'm not required to play a sweep picked arpeggio at 200 beats per minute. That's just fact. That's not where the bread and butter is. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't work on these things, but I'm just saying, you know, if your goal is to be a working guitarist, then it's about priorities. And I wish someone had told me this stuff back then. Maybe I wouldn't have listened. I don't know. But it probably would have saved me a lot of time down the line, and other things like, you know, learning to read music and stuff. But we're going to come on to all that in later videos. Like I say, for this one, I just want you to sit down and think about how you practice and what you prioritize currently. So, for example, today I'm just at home and I'm doing an acoustic thing for a singer, you know, a remote session, and I think this is one of the hardest things to do, is to lay down a good acoustic track with nothing else going on. So, you know, this is just a little that kind of ditty. But when there's nothing else in the background, I'm not the best, you know, acoustic picker in the world, and all your slightest little, you know, movements and little misses of notes, not quite fretting a note correctly, they all show up massively in the recording. You know, not playing in time, not really locking in, etc. They all, when it's just you and an acoustic guitar, that really shows up hugely. So maybe that's something you could work on. Is just you know, fingerstyle and playing acoustic stuff really well. So yeah, sit down and literally get a pen and paper and think about the things that you need to really work on. So some of the things to get you going, without getting down the whole reading music thing just yet, and without too specifics on exercises, I just want you to think about stuff. So you know, if you listen to anything currently in the charts, A, there's not much guitar on it, and B, what there is on it, even if it's not in the charts, you know, just standard singer-songwriter stuff, it isn't going to be the wailing guitar solo. Every now and then you might hear one, but that's very rare. So if we listen to things, then it's very good rhythm ideas, and I don't mean complex. That's the other thing to get out of your head as well. You know, you hear these guys on YouTube doing little like really fast 30-second notes in a funk thing. If I did that on a standard gig, then there's a good chance I'd probably get sacked, because it doesn't sit right with the overall sound of the music. So think about how much time you're devoting to things that you may not use in the real world. So 8-finger tapping is wicked, and you should work on it. But how much time are you going to devote on it? Are you going to use that that often? Probably not, I would say. So things to sit down and think about are your rhythm playing, your general rhythm playing, just playing in time. And the only way to get better at this is to play with other people. So playing in bands, playing with other musicians, comping for other guys. So if you get in a little duo, and concentrate probably more on being a really nice rhythm player, nice chord voicings. Again, there'll be future lessons going in depth about this kind of thing. But you know, so if there's a piano player, we're not over complicating the voicings with big full chords and you're doing just the top end, or if it's just you and a singer, then you are going to have to fill it out a little bit more. So really think about these areas about your rhythm playing, which is a really under instructed area of guitar, and students just don't practice it, and players just don't practice it. It's only because I had it pointed out to me quite a few years ago that I started practicing it. So working on your time, once again, I'm just going to repeat, all of these lessons will be more in depth later, but working on your time, so playing in time, playing to a tick is good, and we'll look at in the future about how to work on specific playing to a tick techniques. But again, playing in a band, get in a group, you know, function bands and club bands. I used to have a once a month residency when I was first starting out with a band that was wicked, because I learned loads of repertoire. There's another thing called the common repertoire. I learnt loads of repertoire and just got to play, and the jams were really extended, so it could have been like, you know, one chord vamp or something for half an hour, and that was great. I didn't realise it at the time, but looking back, that was like my apprenticeship. That was great for learning how to play with a rhythm section and just spend ages just locking in. I used to play in a big band once a week, and that was really good because most of that is just rhythmic chord stuff. And just following a massive chart, lots of different tempos, learning to interact with the piano player and things like that. So that's good. So yeah, number one, I would say think about your rhythm playing. How much time do you devote to rhythm playing? What do you consider good rhythm playing? What do you work on? I bet if you really think about it, and this isn't everyone, but if you really think about it, you probably don't sit down and specifically work on rhythm playing, unless you're working on a tune. And I don't mean like, you know, playing riffs at 200 beats a minute. I'm just thinking about your basic, you know, nice sounding strummy stuff. And the other thing I'm going to say is never ever say something is easy. It's all in context. A very, very good guitarist once said to me, a C chord becomes the hardest thing in the world when you're on telly and there's a camera pointing at your face. Just to play that, and if there's nothing else playing, just to play that C chord really well suddenly becomes a very daunting thing. And it always comes back for me to acoustic stuff. You know, the things I fear in shows and sessions are where everyone else stops and there's just a solo acoustic moment. And it can be a really, really simple thing, like a C. Something like that, C to a G or something, because the fact is, if it's just you and you go, then everyone hears that, and if it's a big audience, a few thousand people, they all hear that. So they're always the moments that strike a little bit of fear into me. Not because I can't play a C or a G, it's because it's very exposed, and because of the nature of the acoustic guitar, it's very unforgiving. Even if it's on like an electric guitar with lots of chorus sound, you know, and delay, that note that you make a mistake on or scrub will then be echoed across the theatre or across the stage or whatever. So yeah, being really precise with your chordal movements and being able to play something simple, really, really well, really nicely, really beautifully. Is it a good sound? Are you getting all the notes ringing? Does it just sound nice? Record yourself. Does it sound nice? There's a good thing to live by. But that's served me well over the years, actually, to say nothing is easy. And I'm always suspicious of players that ring me up and say, I've got a gig for you, it's easy. Because it never ever is. Obviously there's harder gigs than some others, but it's never an easy, and there's never an easy gig, because it's hard playing this stuff, and you have to care about it, and you have to love it, and to do a good job every time is tricky, and you know, you should put all your effort into doing the best job you possibly can. So yeah, never ever say something is easy. Always be suspicious of some player that says to you, "Oh yeah, I can do that. That's easy." When they really listen to it, is it that easy? So easy songs for me, they don't exist. There's always something. There's always a challenge in there. And so this first video, just sit down and think about what you work on. And if your goal is to become a working guitarist, is that stuff going to serve you well? Is working on, what's his face? Rusty Cooley, pentatonic, 4-note per string stuff going to serve you well in the working life of a guitarist? I'm here to tell you not, but what do you think? So I'm here to tell you work on rhythm to begin with, the rhythm and your time and playing things nicely and tastefully. Like I say, further videos we're going to in depth into each of these areas, but for now this video is just about you getting down, thinking about what you should be working on. And deep down I think we all know what we should be working on, but it's in that commitment to actually sit down and do it. So this is where it starts, the thought process about your practice time and how you should devote it and what you should do with it. Less tapping, more niceness. Cheers. Any questions, please drop them below, and there'll be an in-depth lesson again soon about some of these areas. Thanks guys.